welcome back to the Real World Garage. Today we got a guest star. It's my dad, and his grandchildren affectionately call him, Grumps. He's here with us, and he's got a little story of a partner and friend of his back down where he's from had with a Ford Ranger. So, Gramps, if you would go ahead and tell us about the what we had and what happened.
2007 Ford Ranger. Belongs to one of the parts houses, and he has guy has his own shop. My friend has his own shop, and he got a truck in from a parts house. Brake pedal was going to the floor, so he diagnosed it as a brake master cylinder, which was the right call. He get the master cylinder on it, got it bled out, got back in the truck, cranked it up, and the brake pedal was hard, would not push. So he thought the brake booster had gone bad from being overextended while the master cylinder was bad. So he called the parts house and said, hey, your truck needs a brake booster. And again, it's a 2007 Ford Ranger. So they called him back in a little while and said they couldn't get the part. The part was not available. So he called me, which he does on occasion. I consult with him, and he said, can you see if you can find a brake booster for a 2007 Ford Ranger? Well, before I got around to that, he found one in the junkyard, called me back and said, hey, I found one at the junkyard, we're going to put a used one on it. So okay, puts the used brake booster on the truck. It's got the same problem, so he thinks he's got another bad brake booster. So he calls me back. I started looking online. I found two places that said that they had the brake booster. I called him back, gave him the 800 numbers. He in turn called the parts house and said, here's two numbers. These people show to have it. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. You can call them. They called first place, said, no sir, we don't have it. Called the second place, and they said, no, we don't have it. But here's a phone number to somebody that may have it. So he called this third warehouse, and they said, yes, we have one, but we can't sell it. It's the last one in the USA, and we're not allowed to sell it. Didn't give him any reason why they couldn't sell it. They just told him, no, you couldn't sell it. So I worked on cars for a good long time. I'm retired now for several years.
50 years.
Anyway, I started thinking about all the symptoms that he was describing to me, and the only time I've ever had a brake pedal be hard, and I know it's possible other reasons, but the only reason I've ever come across is when the brake pedal is hard to push, it's because it's not getting enough vacuum to pull to assist the diaphragm. So I called him back after about 2 days, and I said, look, take that old brake booster that you took off the car, off the truck, off the Ranger, and get you a long piece of hose off another vehicle, and use the other vehicle. In this case happened to be a Mazda pickup truck he had that was easy to get to the fitting. He hooked the fitting up to this old brake booster, and he's pushed on this rod like I told him to, and he had a little bit of assist. So he put his hand over the hole here in the front where the master cylinder goes, over this hole right here. He put his hand over it. It was sucking vacuum there, and then he was able to push the booster. The booster was working. So he came back and said, tell me what was going on. And I said, well, the only thing you did was replace the master cylinder. Spray some brake clean around here and see if it's leaking vacuum in this area. And he did, and it sucked the brake clean right in. So I said, well, pull the new master cylinder and this was the old one. I said, pull the new master cylinder off and look and see if there's any difference between the rebuilt that you put on and this old one. He pulled it back apart, compared the two, and he called me back in a little while, and he said, the truck's fixed. I said, well, what'd you do? He said, when I separated the master cylinder from the brake booster, I looked at, there's an O-ring that goes right around here on this outer part. And if you look right in here, there's a slight indentation for an O-ring to fit. He said the new master cylinder had a smaller O-ring than the original master cylinder. He said the original master cylinder, the O-ring was 3 times as thick, and it wasn't sealing, and that's the reason when he changed it out, all it was turned out to be the whole problem. Well, not the whole problem. It had a bad master cylinder, but the problem with it not having the proper amount of assist from the vacuum booster was because of that O-ring leaking because it wasn't the right thickness. So I looked up the Ford part, brand new master cylinder at the Ford dealer. If you go to the Ford dealer and get a new master cylinder, it comes with 2 O-rings. So if you got a 2007 Ranger, or I guess any of them.
To what year?
2007 to 2011. There was a change. In 2006 back would fit a Mazda and a Ranger, but from 2007 up, it would only fit there was no replacement, it only would fit on a Ranger. Nothing else would fit it. But anyway, the Ford dealer, if you go to the Ford dealer and buy the master cylinder, you get 2 O-rings. One of them's thicker than the other one. So depending on your application, which O-ring you use. So anytime you got a hard brake pedal, look and see why you're not getting the proper amount of vacuum. It can be check valve, it can be the hose going over to the manifold, or it can be where the manifold fitting goes into the manifold. It can be partially blocked by carbon, not allowing you to get in there enough vacuum in here. So make sure you don't have any vacuum leaks. Make sure you don't have any restrictions of the vacuum. And some of the newer cars I know have vacuum pumps. They don't use vacuum engine vacuum like they used to solely. Now some of them have pumps on it, and the pump can be better. There's a lot of other things going on. You get a hard brake pedal, every time I've ever had that, it's because it wasn't getting enough vacuum to the booster. And in this case, it was because the O-ring that they used was not the same as the original. And that's about it.
So that'll tell you guys, if you get some new parts in hand, it's always a good idea to lay your new part right next to your old part and make sure that there are no differences.
Okay, how did I come to the conclusion that the brake booster was probably okay? And the way I came to that decision was the car had a pedal going to the floor, and it went to one that you couldn't push, period. So my thought process was, what had changed? The only thing that was changed was the master cylinder. We knew we had good vacuum. All that system was good. So the master cylinder had been changed, and then that's when the pedal got hard. So that's the reason I suggested that he take both master cylinders, the rebuilt one that he put on and the old one that came off the car, and see if there were any differences in the master cylinders. As it turns out, the O-ring on the new rebuilt master cylinder that seals it to the vacuum booster was smaller. It was about 3 times less thick. So he swapped the old O-ring off the old master cylinder onto the new rebuilt master cylinder, put it all back together, and that solved the problem because he stopped a leak in the vacuum system. And the guy did the right thing. He made the wrong diagnosis in that he thought the brake booster was bad. So the only thing that that customer had to pay for was the original master cylinder, because the master cylinder was definitely bad. And that concludes this show, and almost. If you're putting on a part and things don't work like they should, look at the part very closely, compare it to the old one, see if there's been a design change. It's probably a good idea to look at the 2 parts before you install them on the car. If things start going downhill after you put the new part on, then it's probably a difference in the part. So just double check and make sure that all the components, new part versus old part, are the same. It might keep you from having this kind of heartache. Thank you for listening.
With that, thanks for coming along. Y'all have a good one.